All right, everyone, buckle up. Today we're diving deep into one of the most celebrated Star Trek, the Next Generation episodes, The Measure of a Man.
Oh, yeah, this one's a classic.
It really is, but we're going beyond the surface today.
Definitely.
We're going to uncover the behind-the-scenes drama, those fascinating connections to real-world history, all the stuff that makes this deep dive worthwhile, even if you're not a diehard Trekkie.
You know, it's amazing how this episode almost never made it to the screen.
Seriously, I always thought it was a sure thing, a fan favorite.
Yeah, but it faced some major pushback during development.
From who?
Well, none other than Gene Roddenberry, Star Trek's creator himself.
Wow, I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, he envisioned the 24th century as this perfect utopia, right?
Yeah.
Humanity evolved beyond conflict.
Yeah.
And a story about a courtroom battle where Starfleet's core values are on trial.
Right.
It clashed with his optimistic vision.
That's interesting. So how did The Measure of a Man escape that fate?
All credit goes to the writer, Melinda Snodgrass. This is actually her first TV writing credit.
Oh, wow. What a way to make an entrance.
Right. She argued that even in an advanced society, these questions about rights and personhood wouldn't just disappear.
Makes sense.
Especially with AI getting more and more complex. And, it's a testament to her persuasive skills that she actually convinced Roddenberry.
Yeah.
Without her, Star Trek might have taken a very different path.
It's amazing how one person's vision can shape an entire franchise like that.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't just Roddenberry they had to deal with, right? Wasn't the 1988 Writers Guild strike also happening around that time?
Oh, absolutely. The strike had a huge impact on television production.
Yeah.
Including Star Trek.
Right.
The whole season was shortened.
Oh, wow.
Due to the script shortage.
I see.
So every episode really had to count.
Yeah.
And The Measure of a Man certainly does.
For sure.
And it's also interesting to note that there are actually two versions of the episode.
Two versions, like a director's cut.
Exactly.
Oh, cool.
The extended cut was released later, and it includes these restored scenes that weren't in the original broadcast.
I see.
They add a lot more depth to the story.
Like, what kind of scenes?
Well, for instance, there's a scene where Guinan, played by Whoopi Goldberg,
Right.
offers more of her perspective on Data's situation,
Yeah.
drawing this really chilling parallel between his potential disassembly and the historical exploitation of marginalized groups.
Whoa. That's heavy stuff, bringing real-world injustices into this sci-fi trial.
Yeah, it adds another layer.
Speaking of connections, didn't they also reuse a model from an earlier Star Trek film in The Measure of a Man?
You're right. They used the Starbase 173 model, which was originally used for the Regular Eye Space Lab in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Oh, right.
Might seem like a budget-saving move at first glance.
Yeah.
But it's actually pretty clever.
How so?
Think about the symbolism.
Okay.
Both Regular Eye and Starbase 173, they're sites of scientific exploration.
Right.
But they're also places where ethical boundaries get pushed.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like a subtle visual reminder
Yeah.
that the quest for knowledge can sometimes lead to some dangerous paths.
I like that a lot of viewers probably wouldn't even notice that detail.
Probably not.
Okay, before we dive any further into the analysis, let's just get everyone on the same page about the basic premise of the episode.
Yeah, good idea.
Remind us what kicks off all this drama.
So it starts with Commander Bruce Maddox,
Nice.
this brilliant but ambitious cyberneticist.
Okay.
He arrives on the Enterprise with this grand plan.
What's the plan?
He wants to disassemble Data.
Disassemble.
Yeah, to figure out how he works.
Take him apart like a machine.
Essentially.
That's kind of intense.
Right, and his ultimate goal is to create an army of data copies for Starfleet.
Whoa, hold on. He wants to basically clone Data.
In a way, yes.
Well, I can see why Data might not be too happy about that.
Yeah, Data's not exactly thrilled about being treated like a science project.
Right. Who would be?
So his response is what fuels the whole conflict.
What does he do?
He objects, argues he has the right to choose.
Makes sense.
He even resigns from Starfleet to avoid being disassembled.
Wow, that's a powerful statement.
It is, and it's this act of defiance that leads to the whole courtroom drama,
Right.
where the question of Data's personhood becomes a central issue.
And that's where the episode really gets into those deeper questions about what it means to be human.
Exactly. It's not just a sci-fi courtroom drama, it's a philosophical exploration.
And it uses the courtroom setting so cleverly to really explore all sides of that debate.
You know, is humanity just about biology?
Right.
Or is it something more?
Yeah.
Consciousness, self-awareness, emotions, relationships, all of that.
It makes you think, what does it really mean to be human?
Right. Data's situation forces everyone, including the viewers, to confront these really fundamental questions.
Yeah, and I love how it contrasts Data's logical approach with the human character's flaws and emotions.
Right, they're not these perfect, rational beings.
It shows that being human is messy.
It is. It's complicated.
Exactly. It's not about achieving some ideal state of perfection.
You got it.
It's about embracing the complexity.
And Data's journey throughout the episode, and really the entire series, is all about that, about embracing that complexity.
It's in those messy, complicated spaces that we often find the most powerful expressions of what it means to be human.
I completely agree.
Like that scene with Data and Tasha Yar's hologram.
Oh, powerful scene.
It's heartbreaking.
It really is.
Because Tasha had died in the previous season.
Right, tragically.
So it raises all these questions about whether Data can even understand that kind of loss.
But in that scene, Data, even while struggling with human emotions, he acknowledges that deep connection he felt for Kasha.
Yeah.
The intimacy they shared.
Right.
And it's a game changer.
Why?
Because it shows that Data's capable of forming these meaningful relationships and experiencing real grief.
It challenges that argument that he's just a machine.
Exactly. He's not just processing data. There's real depth there.
It makes you realize that sentience can show up in ways that we don't always expect.
For sure.
It really expands our definition of what it means to be a person.
I think that's one of the most important takeaways from this episode.
Now, even the seemingly lighthearted moments in the episode have this hidden depth to them.
Like what?
Well, like the poker game at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, where Data can't quite grasp the concept of bluffing.
Exactly. It seems like a fun, casual scene. But it actually foreshadows Data's larger struggle to understand human behavior.
Those subtleties of social interaction.
Yeah, Data, with all his knowledge and computing power, he stumbles when faced with something as inherently human as deception.
Absolutely. It shows the limitations of even advanced AI.
At least at that point in Star Trek.
Right.
But it sets the stage for Data's continued growth throughout the series, as he tries to understand and embrace his own unique form of sentience.
It's a journey we get to follow for several seasons.
And those limitations, those struggles, that's what makes Data's journey so compelling.
And we can't forget Guinan's contribution to this episode.
Right. Whoopi Goldberg's character, she brings such a unique perspective.
Absolutely.
Guinan's wisdom and insight are just invaluable.
He's the voice of reason.
And in The Measure of a Man, she draws this really powerful parallel between Data's situation and the historical exploitation of marginalized groups.
Like slavery.
Especially slavery.
A really dark period in human history.
And it's chilling when she warns that if Starfleet can claim ownership of Data and deny him his autonomy, then they could potentially create a generation of disposable people.
That line gives me chills every time I hear it.
It really makes you think about the potential consequences of our actions.
It does.
And it adds this layer of social commentary that elevates the episode beyond just a sci-fi courtroom drama.
It makes it relevant to our lives, even today.
Especially today, as we grapple with the increasing power and sophistication of AI.
The Measure of a Man forces us to confront the ethical ramifications of our choices.
And to really consider the long-term impact of how we treat other beings.
No matter their origin or composition.
It's a message that feels more urgent now than ever before.
Couldn't agree more.
So we've covered the production challenges, the historical parallels, the central conflict. But you mentioned that The Measure of a Man is considered a landmark piece of media studies.
Yes.
So what makes it so significant in that field?
Well, that's what we're going to explore next, so stick around.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a short break to continue our deep dive into The Measure of a Man.
I'm excited to dig deeper into this.
I too.
It's such a rich episode with so much to unpack.
Absolutely, and I think our listeners are really going to enjoy this conversation.
I hope so. This episode has so much to teach us, even today.
It really does. We'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive.
Welcome back. Ready to continue our exploration of The Measure of a Man.
Absolutely. My mind is still buzzing from our last discussion.
I can imagine. There's so much to unpack in this episode.
It really is a classic, but you mentioned it's also considered a landmark piece of media studies.
It is.
So what makes it so significant in that field?
Well, for one thing, The Measure of a Man dared to challenge Gene Roddenberry's utopian vision of the Federation.
You know, you're right.
Remember, he initially resisted the whole premise of the episode.
Yeah, because he believed conflict and legal battles were incompatible with this advanced future.
Exactly. He thought humanity would have evolved past all that.
But the episode shows that even in a highly advanced society, those questions about individual rights and social justice,
Right.
they're still relevant.
They are. It's not about achieving a perfect utopia. It's about how we navigate those complexities.
Yeah.
How do we uphold our values when faced with difficult situations?
I see what you mean.
By bringing that conflict into Roddenberry's idealized world,
Right.
The Measure of a Man forces us to think about the nuances of progress, even in a future where we've seemingly solved so many of today's problems.
It's a reminder that the pursuit of justice and equality is an ongoing process.
Absolutely. It's not a destination, it's a journey.
And speaking of things that are still relevant today, the episode really tackled the implications of AI head-on.
Way back in 1989.
Yeah, it's almost prophetic considering how much AI is developing in our own time.
It really is. We're now having these very same discussions about AI ethics.
Right, the potential for sentient machines, the ethical considerations.
All of that. And The Measure of a Man was already exploring these themes decades ago.
What I find so interesting is that the episode doesn't give us easy answers.
It doesn't.
It presents both sides of the argument, forcing us to think critically and engage with the complexity.
Exactly. It's not a simple good versus evil scenario.
It's a nuanced philosophical debate.
Brought to life through this gripping courtroom drama.
And that's one of the reasons it's studied in media studies.
It is.
It shows how storytelling can explore complex social and ethical issues. Right?
And encourage viewers to think critically about the world around them. It's a masterclass in using science fiction to examine our own humanity.
And it also serves as this powerful social mirror,
Yeah.
reflecting real-world struggles back at us.
By explicitly linking data's plight to the historical exploitation of marginalized groups.
Especially slavery.
Right.
The episode compelled us to think about the ongoing struggle for equality.
And to confront our own biases and prejudices.
And to really consider the potential consequences of unchecked technological advancement.
It's a reminder that progress is fragile.
It is.
We have to be vigilant in protecting the rights of all individuals.
No matter their origin.
Exactly. And it seems The Measure of a Man didn't just resonate with audiences.
It didn't.
It was critically acclaimed, too.
It was. The episode was actually nominated for a Writers Guild of America award.
Wow.
For Best Episodic Drama.
That's impressive.
And it's consistently ranked as one of the best Star Trek episodes of all time.
I can see why. It sparked meaningful conversations that go beyond just science fiction.
So we've got critical acclaim, complex themes, challenging social norms, even foreshadowing our current anxieties about AI, all in one episode. But its impact wasn't limited to a single episode, right? Did The Measure of a Man have any lasting influence on the Star Trek universe?
It definitely did. It had a ripple effect throughout the franchise.
How so?
Well, first of all, it really solidified Data as a complex and multifaceted character.
Hard to imagine Data's arc without this episode.
Right. It was a defining moment for his development.
In what way?
Well, it established a legal and ethical framework within the Star Trek universe for understanding and protecting the rights of sentient AI.
Oh, that's interesting.
So in later episodes, like The Offspring,
Where Data creates his daughter, Lal.
right, the events of The Measure of a Man are directly referenced
Interesting.
when they're defending Lal's right to exist.
So it set a precedent.
It did, shaping how the Federation approached artificial life forms going forward.
I see. It's fascinating how one episode can have such a lasting impact.
And as we've talked about, those questions about AI sentience and rights, they're even more relevant today.
Than they were back in 1989.
Exactly. It's like The Measure of a Man was ahead of its time.
Anticipating the ethical dilemmas we're facing right now.
It's remarkable.
You know, as much as I love dissecting Star Trek,
I know what you mean.
I can't help but wonder what it all means for us, the viewers.
That's a great point.
You know, what are we supposed to take away from this deep dive?
How can we apply these insights to our own lives?
Exactly.
Well, those are some of the questions we're going to explore when we come back.
I'm looking forward to that. Don't miss the final part of our deep dive where we delve into those personal reflections. Welcome back, folks. Ready for the final leg of our Measure of a Man deep dive.
I am. We've covered a lot of ground, but now it's time to bring it all home.
Yeah, we've gone from production history to these deep philosophical questions. But what does it all mean for us, the viewers?
All right, how can we take these insights and apply them to our own lives?
Exactly. It's easy to get lost in the analysis.
It is.
But ultimately, the power of any story lies in how it connects with the audience.
Absolutely. So let's try a thought experiment.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Imagine you're in Captain Picard's shoes.
During that courtroom scene.
Yes. You're tasked with defending Data's right to exist.
High stakes.
With everything we've discussed in mind, How would you argue for data's rights?
Whoa, that's a challenge.
It is. It's not just about legal argument.
Right, it's about getting to the heart of what makes data worthy of personhood.
Exactly. Those qualities that go beyond his artificial origins.
It's about recognizing his experiences, his relationships,
His capacity for growth, for self-awareness.
and using those insights to make a case for his right to choose his own path.
Precisely. So think about what resonated with you most about Data's character. Was it his pursuit of knowledge?
Or his loyalty, his yearning to understand humanity. For me, it was his capacity for love and connection.
Oh, interesting.
That scene with Tasha Yar's hologram.
Right.
It showed that Data could experience deep emotions, even grief.
Powerful stuff.
How can you deny personhood to someone who feels so deeply?
That's a compelling argument. It speaks to the idea that sentience isn't always obvious.
Right, it can manifest in ways we might not expect.
Data's experience challenges us to broaden our definition of personhood,
To look beyond the physical form.
to see the depth of someone's inner life.
And to recognize that intelligence and consciousness aren't limited to biological beings.
As our technology advances, we need to be ready to grapple with these questions.
About the nature of sentience, the rights of artificial beings.
And The Measure of a Man provides a framework for those conversations.
Even if it doesn't offer easy answers.
It encourages critical thinking, empathy, a commitment to justice,
It challenges us to examine our biases
to be more inclusive.
and to ensure our technology reflects our values.
The Measure of a Man is a call to action.
It really is. It's not just entertainment.
It's a story that pushes us to be better.
Well said. And as we move into the future, these questions will only become more urgent,
More complex.
more crucial to address,
We have a responsibility to shape the future of AI.
in a way that upholds dignity, autonomy, respect for all sentient beings.
I think this deep dive has given us all a lot to think about.
It has. We've gone from behind-the-scenes trivia to the meaning of humanity.
And the future of AI.
The Measure of a Man reminds us that science fiction can be so much more than just escapism.
It can confront the big questions, challenge our assumptions.
And expand our understanding of ourselves and the universe.
It can inspire us to create a better future.
A future where all sentient beings are treated with dignity and respect.
That's a future worth fighting for.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into The Measure of a Man.
It's been a pleasure exploring this episode with you.
And to our listeners, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking out stories that challenge and inspire you.
Live long and prosper.